Hi, and welcome back to our bonus video following on for the food, family and life on the spectrum. And Chris and I just love having you here, but we thought we'd get together today because we've had quite a few questions based on the webinar that we couldn't actually answer when the webinar was on. But in the meantime, I want to share a little bit of a surprise for those who didn't see it, but Chris was actually on national TV last week talking about how food impacted on Tim, her son, and there's quite a bit of controversy, wasn't there, Chris?
That's a sort of understatement, yes.
And so we thought, what better place to recourse or give you an understanding of what exactly happened. I thought we would spend a little time right now Chris, do you want to sort of give your side of the story and exactly what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. Well, unfortunately for the 20 seconds that we were shown on television, there was over 2 hours of filming that they'd come to a house and done, which was great, and spent a lot of time talking to Tim, talking about what we've done. What they didn't show, I think they announced it that it was a cure for autism, this controversial new treatment, which was me giving him kale and apples, was a cure for autism. That was what they didn't show was behind the fact when they'd asked me about a cure and I said I absolutely do not use that word ever. And also the fact that I said that diet was one part of the puzzle, and that also we have done years of ABA, early intervention, speech therapy, occupational therapy, vision therapy, and as well as all the chiropractic and the other therapies. Yeah. So unfortunately what they chose to do was take an angle that I changed his diet and he was miraculously cured, which isn't the case. And it's also been a 9-year journey. It hasn't been a miracle, give him an apple and take out gluten and dairy and it was all fine. So I wanted to make that clear because there was quite a lot of judgment then on the boards, on Facebook, on all the TV shows saying that he probably didn't have autism and it wasn't scientifically proven and all the rest.
It becomes, doesn't it? Almost as if autism is like a competition.
It's terrible.
And the thing about this is that we are all on this journey together. I don't think there's one single parent here who hasn't been through the whole process, questioning yourself, wondering whether things work or not. And you go for a period of time sometimes where you might be doing speech therapy for ages or occupational therapy for ages or whatever it is. There's no quick fix, but it's the combination of all of them.
Absolutely.
And from our perspective, when Chris and I originally started talking about this program, was if you can't get the food right, food is that thing that underpins so much health. Our food system has now become so out of control. We don't know what's in it. And Chris and I are both very passionate about the food we feed our children. And the program that she does is really about just look at Tim and see how healthy he is. And how it's impacted on the whole family.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the other thing they didn't say was that as well as helping him with his behaviour and his autism, that when we changed diet, he wasn't sick anymore. So there was no more diarrhoea, no more eczema, no more asthma, no more ear infections. So they didn't put that bit in either. And I just sort of think that they've really missed the point there, because those sorts of things would not have gone away regardless if I'd spent 100 years on behaviour therapy. They were not going to fix what was going on underneath. His diarrhoea and his eczema and things would not have been fixed by behaviour therapy. No. So it's about, again, just getting your head around looking at that whole body disorder, as Dr. Herbert said on that same show. But it still stuns me that people get so up in arms when you talk about feeding healthy food to kids. It suddenly causes such controversy. And it really, I still am flabbergasted that people get so upset and so confronted by the notion that healthy food is a controversial treatment.
Yeah, and Chris and I were talking back and forth while this was happening, and both of us just overwhelmed actually, because as I said before, for us, food underpins the health of the whole entire family, not just the child with the spectrum. But one of the things we discussed too, when we talk about diabetes, if somebody is diagnosed with diabetes, the first thing a doctor does is look at their diet. Same with heart disease, same with cancer even, asking people to look at the chemicals in their food and how they impact. Why do we not do the same thing with autism? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
What was lovely actually is that we did get a response from somebody at one of the universities who said, unfortunately, science is often 10 years, 20 years behind. And the beauty is that I think for you, Chris, in particular, is you really are leading the way in this, because you can see the outcome from Tim. And I think if anybody can have, confidence in that, you look at the end product.
Yeah, that's right.
And this business about him not having autism, I mean, it's just... it just blows my mind. It's like some people say to me all the time, you're so lucky, your kids are so successful. It just happened overnight. No, it didn't.
I wish.
It's the hard yards you put in. So let's talk about a couple of the questions then, and we'll move on to something else. But one of the questions about magnesium. Can you explain a little bit about magnesium and its impact on anxiety? For instance?
Definitely. Yeah, that was a really good question. It's really important. A lot of our kids are, probably most of us are deficient in magnesium, and we think sometimes, you get the leg cramps or something, and you think, I might need some magnesium. But it's so much more important. It's obviously it's for every part of our body and bones and things, but especially for anxiety, and and for sleep. So you find a lot of our kids do really well on magnesium, and they can be quite deficient, and you can get that tested possibly with your naturopath. But it's one of those things that if you do have a child with anxiety or with sleep issues, I'll definitely be looking at supplementing with magnesium. You really can't have too much. If you have too much, you'll get some diarrhea. So you can actually keep testing how much you can give your child just by a bowel tolerance, really. And another really easy way to get it into them is to have an Epsom salts bath. So that's magnesium sulfate. Really, really unobtrusive, really inexpensive, very, very relaxing, good for you to get in as well afterwards to soothe your muscles. But you'll find the kids really unwind, calm down, have a really nice sleep after an Epsom salts bath.
Well, many of the top athletes use Epsom salts baths, to replace magnesium, but also for their muscles. I know my daughter is a professional dancer, and that was what was recommended to her after an extraordinary day of dance, as she hops in the Epsom salts bath, and it really does work really well.
It's great.
Are there foods that children can be eating more of to increase their magnesium?
They probably wouldn't get enough just from food, though. Probably they need so much more. So, the green leafy vegetables and things like that are fabulous. And even some nuts and things. But in terms of actually getting enough, you probably will need to supplement them at least for a little while. Yeah. So just having those baths is just a great way to get that extra in.
Let's talk a little bit let's touch on that green leafy vegetables, because...
controversial green leafy vegetables.
Yes, let's not have any green leafy vegetables. But the other thing about that is that is probably for parents sometimes really hard to get them to eat green leafy vegetables. Yes. I've got to tell you something funny before I go on to this. Last night we were having dinner and we were steaming up some broccoli, and I said to the kids, who wants broccoli? And both my kids brought their plates out, and I just looked at it and thought, wow, what a difference from 15 years ago. They go, really? But how do you get kids to eat more green leafy vegetables?
Yeah. Okay, there's two things I have to say on that, and one of them was taught to me by Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, who wrote the GAPS protocol, and she said you get kids to start eating them 1 pea at a time. That is all you are aiming for, 1 pea at a time. If you have to use a lolly, a chocolate or something that you're trying to get out of their diet to even induce them to eat that pea, that is all you ask of them. And you start just with that pea on their plate. And maybe for a week you don't ask them to do anything, it's just on their plate. The next week maybe you ask them to touch it. And then you're working up, to actually getting them to eat 1 pea. Some kids will do that in 1 or 2 days. Some kids might take a month to eat that pea. So what I do and what I cover is to stop any judgment, which you can comment about in a minute, is give you a whole range of strategies that will suit your child, because you need to know your child and how far you can push them. That's and in terms of, how much stress is it going to cause to get that 1 pea in. You want to do that as least stressful as possible. And then the other really quick way to get green veggies in is to juice them. So the number one question I got after that TV show was, what was in that juice? Because it looked fantastic, and that's all the kids asked him the next day. So just using a few berries, you can hide the green colour if green's an issue. Otherwise, you could call it a Shrek juice or something like that if you wanted to green. But I think juicing is the number one way to get the greens.
Do you also, I'm just thinking, especially when it comes to juices or even mushing vegetables up and putting them in, hiding them in something else. Yeah, like spaghetti
Definitely.
or
hiding them,
What's funny
trickery.
I've got to say that I used to try doing that. My kids would go, "What have you put in here? This is not meat."
They're pretty tricky with that.
But there's some great tools now, isn't there? Really, I know one of the a couple of, you can buy those grinder things that really cut vegetables down very, very finely, so you can't see them.
No, it's good, but it's about finding what works for you.
That's right.
But I wanted to say it can be done because
yes.
Probably like your kids, Tim started from cheese sandwiches and wheat bix, and now he eats all that, or he drinks those.
And our son was coloured noodles, chicken, and and green apples. That was about it. Yeah. And now to see what he'll try and what he'll eat now is just extraordinary. So it takes a lot of patience.
Yes.
It takes a lot of patience. And, I mention this a lot. This journey we're on is a marathon. Mm-hmm. It is not a 100-metre dash. And I think we can get very caught up in the fact that something isn't working for us immediately. What I've found with kids on the spectrum in particular is that they take a long time to change.
Yeah.
They're difficult to change because they get a mindset. But if you stick with it, gradually, and you don't lose it. I think for us as mums, sometimes we go, this is just too hard.
Yeah.
I've got other kids to care for, I've got to work, I've got to do all this other, I can't expend the emotional energy.
It's a ball that drops.
The emotional energy.
Yeah.
And that's why the Life Beyond Judgments program, that's why I actually developed the Life Beyond Judgments program, because you have to be whole. You've got to be focused and calm and confident. And when your child's throwing a tantrum at 6 o'clock at night,
throwing food at you,
you've been at work all day. You've got other kids who need homework done. You've got a load of washing that's got to go out in the line or back in, or and kids need uniforms for tomorrow. Sometimes it's so much easier to say, you know what, this is too hard.
Yep.
So if you're whole, though, if you know what's important for your child and you're really focused on those really small incremental changes, and there's a wonderful book by a guy called Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect.
Okay, yeah.
And it works like savings. With a savings account, you get the compound interest after a period of time. You only have to put away about, $20 a week or $10 a week over the course of, 20 years, how much money you would have saved. Yeah. It's not about putting away $500 a week. But the same with the Life Beyond Judgments program. It's those small incremental steps.
Absolutely, yeah.
And being clear on what it is you want. And then making sure that you have everybody on the same page, because it's too hard to do by yourself.
Yes.
You have to bring people in to do it.
You need those support systems. Yeah. And what I love about is Sally's program, what it teaches you is when you're whole, you can get through the tantrums and you can find that energy to keep going, but you also stop comparing yourself, because that's the other temptation is, but she gave her son that and it was great and they did that there. And then when you're on your journey and you're in control of it and you're feeling, whole about yourself, is that you can ignore it's a massive temptation to say, I just want to do what they're doing. Yes. I just want to replicate that, and unfortunately we can't. And then you get very tempted, and then you get very judged if you are taking the road less followed. So it's so important to know within yourself that you're solid and able to do it.
Parents raising kids on the spectrum, and mums in particular, would have to be the most judged group of parents on the planet. We truly are judged. Everybody judges it. And exactly what happened to you just recently on the TV show. All of a sudden, everybody had an opinion.
Everyone had an opinion.
And Chris is very fortunate to have a really good support network around you that really did, bolster you up and, and you also,
I'm whole enough now. I wasn't a few years ago. I would have been, I would have absolutely gone to pieces. Yeah. But I am now to go, I know my truth.
That's the journey.
Yeah.
That's the journey we're all on.
Yeah.
And I think, personally, I really like the partnership that Chris and I have developed, because we've come at it from this angle that we are doing something different. We are looking at autism differently. We are saying, you can do this. We want to provide the support for you. That's what we do, because we've been through it.
Yep.
I know exactly what it's like to feel all alone, to feel that I'm an idiot, to feel like I'm perhaps on the wrong path, to not want to get up in the morning, pull the sheet up over my head and think, I wish the day wouldn't even start. It's just too hard. I know what that feels like. And I know for mums in particular, especially if you're standing at your child's year 3 or 4 classroom and, the kids are all running out at the end of the day, Mum, I've got, my level 7 book and your child's still on level 1. it's really difficult because you tend to take that personally, that maybe you're not doing something right.
Yeah.
And if you can get this bottom stuff done, if you can get the food organized and calm, you can look at yourself, you can put look after yourself, make sure that you are focused on what it is that's truly important, not 500 things you're trying to do at once. What's really important? Get that clarity, look after yourself physically and emotionally and spiritually and intuitively, because we do have the best intuition. We know,
we do.
Parents.
They do.
That must have been really hard for you that first time you made Tim have the 6-hour breakfast.
6-hour breakfast.
I don't know if you've heard this story.
It's in my first module. My picky eating module, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know that takes an enormous amount of courage.
Crazy.
Yeah, because
there was lots of tears. It wasn't easy. But yeah.
And I think that's where the difference now is for you and I. And sometimes I think about this. Sometimes there's too much information. There's overwhelm of information. And if you can just recognize that it's about this path we're on, the journey we're on, and there's so many of us.
Yeah,
there's so many of
is.
us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I speak, quite a lot to different groups. And I actually spoke a place on Tuesday, and all these mums that didn't realise that every other mum was going through exactly the same thing. And that's what the program, we've done with this Facebook page, is to know that you're not alone. We're all the same.
We're all on this path.
There's 1 in 110 parents going through exactly the same thing as you are, and let's come together to support each other, because when we can do that, we can make those incredible changes.
And not compete. Yeah, not make it a competition.
Yes.
Make it the support, because together we're strong.
We're strong. We're very strong, and there's no competition. What works for one child and one family may not work for another, but the basics. The very basics of this is, if you can get the food right, if you can get the health right, if you can get yourself right, then everything else you can trial.
That's right.
And then you can look at the other therapies without coming from underneath it all the time. This sheer exhaustion and feeling, I talk about it all the time, neurotypical envy.
Neurotypical envy,
NT envy. Looking at every other family, that it's so easy.
It's like, I wish.
It's not really. It's interesting now, because I can look back on this. While it was hard then, it's extraordinary now.
Yeah.
To see where my 3 children are at.
Yeah.
And I see other families who didn't go what we went through, not at the same stage we are now. Yeah. And as sometimes I realise it. And that's why I wrote the book, David's Gift. It truly is a gift. I think where you are now in your family, where we are now, what we're all doing. Yeah. We couldn't imagine it, and the results are there. So, well,
that was good.
And we hope you've enjoyed this. We just wanted to get on. We wanted to clear some stuff. We wanted to answer a few questions and talk. Oh, one quick thing I did want to talk about. The bullying why bullying in Life Beyond Judgments. Again, it's like what we were talking about with Chris's program. In bullying, one of the things is that you have to be whole in order to deal with it. It's so emotional. And that's why I've actually teamed the two together, bullying and Life Beyond Judgments, because you have to look at this from a wisdom perspective. Bullying's not going to go away.
It's so hard not to get so emotional.
That's right. And you can't get emotional about it. As much as it's going to break your heart and you want to just, do something dreadful to these children, hurting your child, you can't do that. The more wisdom you bring to dealing with bullying, the more you teach your children bully resilience, the better they'll be for the rest of their lives, because bullying is not just reserved for the schoolyard. It happens outside. The gift you give your children by teaching them bully resilience, and especially our children on the spectrum, lasts a lifetime.
Yeah.
It will last them a lifetime. So in the food family life on the spectrum, those are the things that we cover. We look at food and make it easy for you. Chris makes it so easy, and her support is amazing. Just even the things which she adds in the Facebook page. We are there for you. We will answer your questions. Yep. We will hold your hand. Change is difficult for everybody, but we want to do it incrementally so you can get there.
Small changes
add
up to big differences.
That's right, exactly right. As Chris calls it, program food changes everything, and Life Beyond Judgments. We can create this wholeness. We can take families to a whole different level. It does not have to be a life sentence.
No,
it can really truly change. So we've added in this video, or in this email today, there's a link below to the replay. So if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the replay of the webinar, Food, Family, Life on the Spectrum, where Chris gave some great tips about...
we did lots of additives and chemicals.
Yep. And I talk a little bit more about Life Beyond Judgments and also bullying, and also there's some stuff in there too. Jerry does his part on dads,
fabulous.
If you have if your partner is really struggling with this at the moment, it's a great video to watch. So thank you for being here today. We've thoroughly enjoyed having a chat, and we will talk with you soon, and hopefully we'll see you in the program.
Bye.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.